It's my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce our first speaker, our first lunchtime speaker today, Mr. Bob Delaney. Mr. Bob Delaney is the MPP, Member of Provincial Parliament for Mississauga West, and he's serving his fourth term now in the Ontario Legislature. Along with many other duties, he is the Parliamentary Assistant for the Minister of Energy. So he works closely with someone whom we all know, Bob Chiarelli, who's been our Minister of Energy now for quite a number of years and has seen the solar industry grow and develop. One of the things that Bob brings to the portfolio is the fact that he's a scientist. He has a bachelor's degree in science from Concordia, and so he understands a lot of the things that we deal with from day to day in the energy system, and understands a lot of the pain that we go through as we're going through the current energy transition. Not only that, I know from speaking with him before the event, he has deep passion for this sector. And if you follow his blog, you'll know that he has been working in the sector and traveling and picking up information from other sectors and from other jurisdictions across North America. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bob Delaney to the podium.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much, Thomas. I also want to thank you for the lovely lunch that you sponsored. Today, as is the case for elected representatives from time to time, was one of the days where I didn't get to have breakfast, and I was kind of worried that I would come down here and I would miss the cycle, and then I would just be living on potato chips until dinner. And so God bless Gowlings for a wonderful lunch. It's a real pleasure, and also, of course, your other sponsor, Deutsche Bank. In working with my good friend, the Minister of Energy, Bob Chiarelli, if one of us says something, you can always go away and say, "Not a problem, I heard it from Bob." And as we all know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is named Bob. It is a pleasure to be here at the Solar Canada Conference and to reflect on how strongly this event, along with the solar industry itself, has grown in just a decade. In fact, during my watch as an elected representative. 10 years ago, a delegate might not have foreseen a conference of this size. 2 days long, hundreds of exhibitors, a few hundred people here today, thousands of participants who pass through here. And this means that the solar sector has a tremendous success to celebrate. It has become an established and increasingly cost-competitive part of Ontario's energy supply mix. These achievements are a tribute to CanSIA, which has helped build a robust, credible, and professional solar industry for more than 20 years. The solar industry, both in heating and electricity generation, is creating good jobs and driving economic growth while bringing clean, renewable energy to the power grid, to consumers and businesses in Ontario and beyond. Something too few people who create wealth, clean up our air, and help reduce carbon emissions here are the two words, thank you. The people of Ontario thank CanSIA and everyone in the solar sector for taking risks, venturing into the technical and commercial unknown, helping clean up our environment, making our power grid more robust and flexible, and creating challenging, profitable businesses and careers right here in Ontario. Through the work that you do and continue to do, Canada is a global leader in solar energy. Thank you very, very much. Ontario in particular is a leader in solar photovoltaic development in Canada. Ontario has more than 1,800 megawatts of solar photovoltaic capacity online, enough electricity to power about 215,000 homes each year. The province has also contracted approximately 630 megawatts of additional solar power capacity to come online in the near term. The viable and commercially successful businesses in this sector, including about 10 companies that produce solar panels or modules here in Ontario, are a testament to the business acumen of the people who are drawn to this sector. One hopes that the resolution of our government and others to see solar in the context of mitigating global warming and to make the strategic policy moves of the past few years to shine the light on solar has also helped. This makes our province of Ontario well positioned to capitalize on a period of aggressive expansion for solar energy in all its forms worldwide. According to Natural Resources Canada, solar photovoltaic power is following a trend to reach grid parity in most Canadian jurisdictions by 2022. And in fact, it may be as soon as 2020, as research presented by CanSIA has shown. On most days, a media scan, which includes some reasonably technical literature in my own personal case, shows some technological advancement or other heading to commercialization. Lately, in some of the reading I've done, I've read about windows that double as solar panels, a prefab home pre-configured for solar, and even a solar-powered bike lane in the Netherlands, presumably ridden by people with wooden shoes. Along with economic growth potential, solar power, both heating and photovoltaic, links with Ontario's climate change strategy released on November the 24th. Climate change is not a distant threat. It is already allowing invasive species to creep north as the frosts get later, the water stays warmer, and the habitat does not freeze them out. And Ontario is fighting back. Last year, the province's last coal-fired power plant closed. And in our own frugal way, Ontario had by that time burned its last lump of coal. Closing coal represents the largest and the most successful greenhouse gas initiative in North American history, equivalent to taking more than 7 million vehicles off of our roads and taking about $4.5 billion annually out of our healthcare costs. In November, Ontario passed new legislation to permanently ban coal-fired electricity in the province, a first in North America, and a significant step forward in not enabling a step backward to fight climate change. Ontario's climate change strategy also recognizes that we need to do more. It sets out the province's vision for Ontario to 2050 and charts a path to a prosperous, low-carbon society where greenhouse gas reduction is part of our growth, efficiency, and productivity. Renewable energy is a key part of building that sustainable economy of our near future. Working together will help ensure that Ontario continues to benefit from our early adoption of solar energy technology. Let's discuss briefly the feed-in tariff program, which we all know as FIT, particularly regarding the updated price schedule. The Ministry has required the IESO to review the prices offered to generators under FIT and microfit programs on an annual basis. Since the inception of the FIT program in 2009, FIT prices for solar PV projects have dropped by between 53% and 73%. The majority of FIT projects are, in fact, solar PV. The IESO review is intended to better align Ontario with global pricing trends and to find a balance between ratepayer value and a fair return on investment. Updating prices in a transparent and accountable way is good for both government and the industry. It gets us all closer to the goal of getting beyond grid parity to the point where solar can compete with retail or wholesale power prices without incentives. We're not there yet, but we are headed in the right direction. It's challenging for industry to adapt to changing circumstances, which is probably the understatement of the morning. However, in a new and expanding industry, circumstances will keep changing quickly. Growing market issues, like changing circumstances, beat static or declining market issues. What government has learned, one hopes, is how to work with industry to ensure transparency when it comes to FIT processes. Grid parity brings us to another important topic, net metering. This may be the future for embedded solar generation in Ontario. The Ministry has developed a concept proposal to transition the microfit program to a net metering program. A recent round of consultations and engagements was very successful. On behalf of the Ministry of Energy, I'd like to thank you for your input and your participation in the process. In the next step, the Ministry will use the feedback that it received to develop a program proposal which will be posted on the Environmental Registry for public comment next year, 2016. The Ministry continues to look to CanSIA, to local distribution companies and agencies, through its advisory working group to help guide the development of the new net metering and self-consumption guide. I also wanted to talk about the work on CanSIA's Distributed Generation Task Force. I hope the conclusions of the Distributed Generation Task Force and the Ministry's advisory working group will be aligned to the extent possible. Both groups look to constructively develop a long-term policy framework for small-scale distributed renewables in Ontario. We appreciate CanSIA's suggestions for improving the microfit program in the interim period before net metering is a reality. We look forward to working together in the near future to include some of CanSIA's proposals in Ontario's microfit rules for 2016. And of course, I need to update you on Ontario's large renewable procurement. As you will know by now, the IESO has extended the timeline for awarding contracts to next March. That came about because of the high volume of proposals received and the complexity of the evaluation process. Consequently, I think this procurement will result in strong projects at competitive prices, and I look forward to seeing the results as well. Also, as previously announced, after contracts are awarded, we will seek feedback from stakeholders so we can improve on the design of large renewable projects 2.0. I'm confident we can look forward to CanSIA being an active participant. I look forward to continuing to